So, I popped into High House Insurance to see if they could quote for my house insurance rather than using the internet. High House got a great deal. So to celebrate, I bought a posh hairdo. It made me look beautiful, gorgeous enough to become a highly paid model. I then won Celebrity Big Brother. I had an affair with an MP. Now I'm promoting a doll of me that says, "Cool blimey, you're well fit."
Happy things happen when you talk face-to-face with High House Insurance. See if we can beat your home insurance quote from the internet. Find us on the High Street Selsey or call 606 552.
Hello and a warm welcome to Manhood Internet Radio. I'm Tony Wiener, your host for this show. So what do we have on offer for you this week? Well, we start the show with Alison's roundup of things to do in the area, and that will be followed by an update on the proposed Selsey to Chichester cycle route. Our reporter Keith Barnes then rushes back to give us a great recipe. So let's get going, and it's over to Alison for a roundup of what's on in the area.
Hello there and welcome once again to our weekly look at what's going on in Selsey and also on the main Manhood Peninsula. First of all, on Wednesday the 16th of November, it's time for Crafty Natter Club. They meet from 2 until 4 in the Methodist Hall, so if you want to be crafty and have a chat at the same time, then why not head along there. It's also the day for the Selsey Model Boat Club. They meet at the pond on East Beach between 4 and 6. And then in the evening on Wednesday, the Selsey Community Choir practice, again at the Methodist Hall, and they meet from 7 until 8:30 in the evening. Now on Thursday the 17th, it's the monthly LINK meeting. That stands for Ladies in Contact. They meet at 7:15 in the evening at St Peter's Church Hall. Their speaker this month is David Neild, and he will be having a close-up look at the honeybee. New members are very welcome to that, so you could try going along to meet other ladies. If that's not for you, then why not go to the Selsey Club on Thursday evening, where there's a whist drive that begins at 7:30 in the evening. Moving up the High Street, the Selsey Cinema Club will meet. The Madness of King George is their programme this month. That's the film written by Alan Bennett. That starts at 7:30 in the evening at the Town Hall, and the entrance fee for that is £5, and there are drinks and refreshments in the interval. Also on Thursday, it's the mobile soft play session for the under-5s at the Selsey Centre between 10 and 11:30. If you're interested in finding out more, you do need to speak to Sue or Tom. Their number is 604 642, so that's the mobile soft play session. And then in the evening at the Selsey Centre, there's the adult kickboxing lesson at 8 o'clock, so plenty going on during Thursday. Friday the 18th of November, it's time for the Derby and Joan. They meet at 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 4 o'clock, again at St Peter's Church Hall. Also in the afternoon, there's some mindful music making happening at the shop on Selsey High Street. That's the coffee shop at the top end, between 2 and 3:30. If you're interested, why not speak to Anna on 07912 609 437. I'll give you Anna's number again. 07912 609 437. So that's Friday the 18th if you want to join in with some mindful music making. Well, there's a lot to do on Saturday. First of all, it's St Peter's Church annual Christmas fair and book sale, so that's quite an early one. Between 11 and 2 at the Church Hall. Entrance fee for that is 50p. It's also the Christmas Open Weekend and fundraising event at Brent Lodge Wildlife Hospital. Now that's taking place on Saturday and Sunday, so you've got 2 chances to go along to that. On Sunday evening, it's time for the Selsey Cricket and Social Club annual dinner and dance and a presentation evening. They'll be having that at Selsey Golf Club from 6:30 in the evening until midnight. If you need further information, you need to contact them by email, and the address for that is info@selseycc.co.uk, or you can ring 07968 961 323. I'll give you that number again for the Selsey Cricket Club annual social dinner and dance. 07968 961 323. Later in the evening, there's an evening of music and magic presented by the Aaron Sounds Ladies Barbershop Chorus. Now they're doing this in the aid of Selsey lifeboats. Not actually happening in Selsey, this one. This will take place at Pagham Village Hall at 7:30 in the evening. Tickets are £6 and you'll be able to listen to Paul Leach, the Raffa Skiffle Group, the Aaron Sounds and many more. So that's an evening of music and magic in aid of the Selsey lifeboat. Also on Saturday, don't forget, the usual Venture Bus sale will take place between 9 and 12. It's also the Scouts Charity Shop open morning from 10 until 12 as usual. And there's one more additional one at the Methodist Church. There's a tabletop sale between 9:30 and 1. Other regular events on Saturdays, kickboxing at the Selsey Centre, 4 to 6 years old at 9:45, followed by a family class at 10:30 in the morning. So I think that's all for Saturday. Moving on now to Sunday. Don't forget it's the continuation of the Brent Lodge Wildlife Hospital Christmas Open Weekend and fundraising event. So that's taking place on Sunday again. There is also the chance to join the Selsey Model Boat Club. They meet at the pond on East Beach between 10 and 12 on Sundays. The Respite Tea will be happening at East Beach Evangelical Church at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think that's everything for Sunday. And then on Monday, it's the Venture Club Christmas shopping trip to Fareham. If you're interested in going on that, it starts off at 9:30, returning at 2:30. You will need to book, of course, and the number for that is 605115. So the number again, 605115 for the Venture Club trip to Fareham. On Tuesday, the 22nd of November, there's the mobile soft play session again for the under fives. That's as usual at the Selsey Centre between 10 and 11:30. Sue or Tom are the people to speak to on 604 642. And then later in the afternoon, kids kickboxing for 4 to 6 year olds at 4:30. Then 6 plus from 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's at the Selsey Centre. Also on Tuesday, the Selsey carers will be having their usual coffee morning at 10:30 at their shop on 109 High Street. And then in the afternoon, it's the Deaf and Blind UK charity meeting. They can be found at Hanover Close Lounge between 2 and 4. So an awful lot to do this week in Selsey, including all the Christmas fairs. So that'll give you a chance to stock up early. Let's turn our attention now to the weather and see what's happening. Our warmest day is going to be Wednesday with a high of 14 degrees C, or in old money, 57 degrees Fahrenheit. Light cloud, 16 mile an hour wind, westerly. On Thursday, the temperature will drop very slightly down to 12 degrees Celsius or 54 Fahrenheit. Again, light cloud. Wind speed picking up though, I'm afraid. 21 miles an hour, west-southwesterly. Friday, in for a cooler day, 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Light cloud again, 17 mile an hour wind, this time west-southwesterly. On Saturday, 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, sunny intervals, so that's picking up there. 14 miles an hour wind, so again slightly lower, west-southwesterly. On Sunday, slightly higher temperature, 12 degrees Celsius, 54 Fahrenheit, but we're in for some light rain. And a much, much higher wind speed of 23 miles an hour, but I think it will be quite a warm wind, south-southwesterly. On Monday, a high of 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is going to be a sunny day, so that looks like being the best day, with a fairly low wind speed of 12 miles an hour, which will be colder though because it's a northeasterly. And on Tuesday the 22nd, down to 9 degrees Celsius or 48 degrees Fahrenheit, back to the light cloud, 12 mile an hour wind again, westerly. Now, for those people who like to walk along the seafront, let's have a look at the tides this coming week. On Wednesday the 16th, the high tide will be at 12:15 with a low at 6 in the afternoon. That will change, of course, through the week, leading us through to Tuesday the 22nd of November, where the low tide will be at 11:30 in the morning and a high tide at 10 to 6 in the evening. Now, as promised, I'm going to move across the peninsula and have a look now at what's happening in the Witterings and Bracklesham. On Wednesday the 16th, it's time for table tennis. This is a drop-in and play for the adults at the Bracklesham Barn between 10 and 12. Running alongside that, as usual, it's CBT motorcycle training at Bracklesham Barn between 9 and 11. Something different though, there's also a coffee morning at Russell's Garden Centre. That's from 10 until 11:30 and it's in aid of St Wilfrid's Hospice. Time for Gyrokensis with Jen. She'll be doing that at Bracklesham Barn between 11 and 12. And then a little bit later, Step Inside are doing belly dancing at the barn between 1 and 2. Not much happening in the afternoon, so that takes us to the evening. Zumba with Louise between 6:30 and 7:30. There's line dancing at the Royal British Legion between 7 and 9, and all will be very welcome there. And don't forget it's happy hour at Pond Barn between 5 and 8 on Wednesday. Thursday the 17th of November, the Stitch and Yarn will be meeting as usual at the Witterings Medical Centre between 10:30 and 12:30. And pretty much at the same time, Knit and Natter at East Wittering Library. They begin at 11 and finish again at 12:30. Also on Thursday, the Witterings Master Art Group will take place between 10 and 12. You can find them at West Wittering Memorial Hall. Then in the afternoon, there's a Keep Fit exercise class at East Wittering Village Hall between 2 and 3. The West Wittering Short Mat Bowls, as usual, will take place between 10 and 12 and again at 2 at West Wittering Memorial Hall. If you fancy trying that, you do need to contact Chris. He or she, not quite sure there, can be contacted on 07788 111325. I'll repeat Chris's number for you. 07788 111325. That's for the Short Mat Bowls. Then in the late afternoon, early evening, the Junior Youth Club will take place. That's for 8 to 12-year-olds at the Youth Centre between 5 and 6:30, followed by the Seniors, 12 to 17-year-olds. They meet from 6:30 until 8:30. Both of those take place at the Youth Centre. On Friday the 18th of November, it will be time for the South Coast Networking 11s meeting. No guessing there what time they start, 11 o'clock until 12:30. That takes place at the Harbour Way Country Club. Also on Friday, we'll have the Witterings Quilters Quilting Bee at St Peter's Church Hall between 10:30 and 4:30. If you're interested in doing some quilting or finding out more, you can contact Judith Rogers. Her number is 511431. That's Judith on 511431. Don't forget Short Mat Bowls at the barn between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. And then at Pond Barn, it's Jukebox Night on Friday between 7 and midnight. On Saturday, the 19th of November, it's time for the Craft Market to be held at East Wittering Village Hall between 10:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon. And then on Sunday, as usual, Windrush Church will be having their meeting in the barn between 10:30 and 12:45. And then in the evening at Pond Barn, it's the usual quiz night at 8 o'clock. On Monday the 21st, the Little Ducklings will be meeting. That's a mother and toddler group at Bracklesham Barn between 9:30 and 11:30. And as usual, running alongside that, there's Short Mat Bowls at the barn between 10:30 and 1. Later in the evening at Bracklesham Barn, Elaine will be doing yoga between 7 and 8:30. And it's also the day for the ARO Ladies Beginner Kickboxing with Verity. That's at Bracklesham Barn between 7:30 and 8:30 in the evening. On Tuesday the 22nd, as usual, Little Explorers play and learn together at Bracklesham Barn. They meet from 9:30 until 11. And it's also the day for Meet and Greet at West Wittering Memorial Hall. They offer coffee, games, homemade soup and a roll. They begin at 10:15 in the morning and that lasts until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At Bracklesham Barn, Elaine will be doing yoga as usual between 10 and 11. And then in the afternoon at Bracklesham Barn at 4 o'clock, it's time for Tai Chi. The Community Pop Choir will be having their rehearsal at West Wittering Memorial Hall between 7 and 9. And the Badminton Club will be meeting at Bracklesham Barn between 7:30 and 9:30. And don't forget, also on Tuesdays, it's free pool at Pond Barn. So plenty to be doing there across the peninsula. Hope you all have a good week, and I look forward to talking with you again next week. Bye for now.
Thank you, Alison. Now over to Keith, who is talking to Mike Nichols about the development of the Selsey to Chichester cycle route.
Now with me now, I've got Mike Nichols from Selsey Information Exchange, and Mike's going to be telling us about the proposed cycle route. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Keith.
Now, the proposed cycle route, Mike, I don't know much about it, I have to say. I've been hearing for a long time that it's going ahead, it's going to be done. But where exactly is it going to run from and to?
Well, thank you. If I'd be permitted, can I just give you a little bit of background?
Certainly.
That might help answer the question, because some listeners may not have any sort of knowledge of this project. There was, for probably the best part of 20 years, a charity in Selsey called the Selsey Cycle Network, and they spent a lot of time not only promoting cycling, but looking at developing a tourist cycle route from Chichester to Selsey. Some of that was achieved in what's known as Route 88, that goes down the east side of the main road to Pagham Harbour Nature Reserve. And they and we have continued to work at the possibilities of finishing that route, which was meant to go down to the Medmenary realignment. And there are still things going on to try and make that happen. But about 18 months ago, the Cycle Network handed over their work to the Community Forum, and with the Town Council's encouragement, looked at developing a commuter cycle route, or a more direct cycle route. The tourist one is about 12.5 miles, and we've been looking at a route that's about 8.5 miles, steers much closer to the B2145, and would be much more of an incentive as a greenway, a traffic-free route, to help take the cyclists off what is a busy and sometimes dangerous road.
Well, I'm sure the cyclists that already use it would agree on all those things, especially the fact that it's a dangerous road. They've got more courage than I've got, that's for sure, riding a bicycle to Chichester or wherever they go. It beggars a lot of questions. Now, there are a number of people that ride their bicycles round Selsey. Would they, or could they even, ride as far as Chichester? So that question being asked, one thinks, well, how many people is this going to, is it going to affect? How many people are going to benefit from this? Certainly the dozen or 20 or so cyclists a day that I see going backwards and forwards would benefit from it, almost certainly. But would it affect enough people to warrant the outlay?
I think it's a difficult question to answer, Keith, because although the project design is of a route, a tarmac route that would be suitable for walkers and cyclists, possible for buggies and maybe horses in places, and the proposed route does, as I say, stick to the west side of the main road fairly closely. Has to do a little bit of a dogleg around Siddlesham because the road is very narrow, and there are two possible ways into Chichester itself, one via the canal pathway and the other via the new free school site north of Huntston. And the first question we had to ask was, is this feasible? And we raised money to get a study done by Sustrans, the professional charity, national charity. They came back with the answer, yes, it is feasible. And so, project group said, okay, we'll carry on. We're now in a phase really answering the question, is it desirable? And that links in with your question, do people want it and would they use it? And I think from a whole host of people like the local councils, businesses, cyclists at the moment and so on, landowners, householders, we've been holding and are still holding a whole series of consultations really, presenting a proposal, and that's what it is. It's not a kind of cast iron, we're going to do it, do you like it or not? It's really saying this seems to be, with the busyness of the road and the increases in traffic and so on, this seems to be a good project. What do you think about it? And generally, everyone's answer has been, yeah, in principle, we feel this is a good project. The problem with anticipating use is that at the moment, very few people will cycle from Selsey to Chichester because it is too dangerous. Certainly, children are very, very rarely seen on the road, and probably quite rightly.
Quite rightly too.
So all we've been able to do with the help of Sustrans is to take figures from other comparable routes and apply them locally on things like how many might use it, what might be the economic benefit, would it create new jobs, those kind of things. But basically, as you would understand, that is guesswork. It's nothing more than that. And part of the problem is that you could say nationally 2.8% of the population use cycle routes, and you could say in Selsey that would mean, you know, this number of people. But none of that really works. So my honest answer to you is, at the moment, we can't give you a definite answer. We can give you some possibilities, but not a definite answer. All we can say is that the route is flat, and so there is no barrier to people being able to use it. And because it is only just a little bit longer than the road, we anticipate that it would be useful.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me that to ride into Chichester from here, for people that wouldn't normally do it, it would be quite an achievement to get there.
Yeah.
And you might have to leave your bike there, get the bus back.
Yeah.
I know when I've moved down here 10 years ago, first thing I did, I bought a bicycle, because I thought, well, I can get about, you know, from where I live up into the village and around and about, and it'll keep you fit. And there are so many people like me, and I see it quite regularly. I chat to people, they do exactly that. They come down here and they think it's a lovely place to cycle around. You can get around on your bike, and they buy a bike, and it goes in a garage after about 6 months, never to see the light of day again, much as mine has.
Yeah.
So the thought of then riding into Chichester, you'd have to be reasonably fit, because, you know, 8 miles on a bicycle, or 16 miles, if you're going to do it, assuming you're going to do the round trip, 16 miles, you need to be fairly fit for that, and you'd need to build yourself up to it, perhaps. I just think that, you know, bearing in mind the sort of average age of people in Selsey, that it may not get the use, and so the end, if you like, doesn't justify the means.
Yeah, I understand that, but let me come back with a few points, if I may. There's 32% of the population of Selsey who are over 65, and actually quite a few of them do cycle at the moment. So there are a lot of younger people. We hope that the route might be used by students going to college. There are a lot of families in Selsey who have indicated they'd like to do family bike rides, you know, weekends, that kind of thing. A lot of the businesses have indicated they've got workers, some of whom come into Selsey, who would want to cycle. And I think that very often these kind of routes between a city and a town, in other words, the main population points, have interesting points along the way. So you might get someone who wants to cycle to the Pagham Harbour Nature Reserve, or from Siddlesham to Chichester, or from Huntston along the canal pathway to Chichester. In other words, we see it not just as Selsey to Chichester, but a route where people might come onto it or go off it at various points along the way. And indeed, we hope that if we can get the link with the Medmary realignment, that whole area can become an increased tourist activity, and indeed link up with some other routes across Medmary and across the Manhood Peninsula that would encourage that sort of tourist use.
I think all those arguments would hold water, certainly. You know, I mean, if you could get the youngsters, I keep forgetting how old I am. But, you know, if you can get people going to college in Chichester or whatever, it's another avenue open to them, because we were discussing just last week of the 3-in-1 card and how much that's going to cost families for the youngsters to get to school in Chichester, or if they could go by bicycle, it could save an awful lot of money. And youngsters that think nothing of jumping on a bike and riding 8 miles. It wasn't those that I was referring to earlier. So yes, I could see that would work.
I think we're also in a national perspective where in sort of combating obesity and generally promoting personal responsibility for health, cycling and walking has got a very high priority. The County Council have just recently produced a walking and cycling strategy and have invited local districts to present to them proposed cycle routes that they would support. And Chichester District has come up with the route proposed from Emsworth to Chichester and our route from Selsey to Chichester as the 2 routes that they would like to support. So we are gradually getting more and more support for the idea, and we're just at the point now where if we're going to be able to go for planning permission for it, which is the last kind of hurdle we need before presenting it to the County Council and then talking about funding and so on, we've got to get what they call an environmental impact assessment done, which is about the ecology of the route and the environment and how it would affect the habitat and so on. And just last night I was talking with the Manhood Wildlife and Heritage Group and getting their help just to highlight some of the issues that we will face before we encourage a contractor to do that bit of work for us. So it's gaining headway, making progress, winning friends, and like all these projects, you've just got to keep on plugging away until the point when you face the realities of the money, and that's not our decision.
Talking of which, have you any idea how much it might cost?
It probably, you're looking at 1.5 million.
So by the time it's finished, that will be 2.25 or so.
Yes.
This is what usually happens.
No, I mean, it's beyond what you call charitable funding. It would have to be a priority adopted by the County Council, and the majority of the funding would have to come from the highways budget.
Yes, I can understand that. And I think eventually it would get a lot of use. Initially it might get more use than I would think, but I think eventually people will get used to the idea. And riding 8 miles, I think, I'm not absolutely certain because I'm not a cyclist, I wouldn't class myself as a cyclist, but would take about 40 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. It can be done in less than that if you're a fairly fit young man, but somebody like me should be able to do it in about 40 minutes. Well, that's not an awful long time, is it, to get from here to Chichester?
No, I mean, I think it's one of those projects that I would say will happen, but if you said, will it be 2020 or 2030, I don't know. The projections are that the B2145 as a road will get vastly more busy, both at the Selsey end and the Chichester end, and therefore the arguments for an off-road greenway cycle route are growing stronger by the year. With our population growing and a lot of the people who will come into the new houses are going to be younger families and so on, the likely cyclists, I think, are going to increase in number. And with the prospect in the future of having a vision for this area as a really good tourist attraction, and I think we need to just be positive and look at those sort of possibilities for the future.
Of course, if the cycle path doesn't work, well, I suppose we could revert to putting rails on it, and somebody could invent a Selsey tram.
Well, you never know how history repeats itself.
There we go.
So that's where we are at the moment, Keith, and we're just trying to make sure that people are aware of what's happening and invite their comments and so on. Is it possible for me just to advertise a couple of meetings that are going to happen?
Absolutely.
We have had some consultation meetings with landowners and with local councils and decision makers. We've got meetings coming up that are arranged at the RSPB in Pagham Harbour Nature Reserve, in Sidlesham at the Church Hall, and a meeting for householders along the route. And we shall have all the details of these on the Selsey Information Exchange website, and people would be very welcome to come to any of those meetings.
Brilliant. Well, let's hope people do come and make themselves and their thoughts known, Mike, and
Thank you.
Then it might be a bit easier to judge the worth of the cycle path.
Absolutely.
I agree with you, it's very, very difficult to judge its usage, to gauge how much it's going to be used against the costs. Very, very difficult. People out there that think it's a good idea there might be thousands of them. They might think it's a good idea, but would they ever use it? It's that situation. I don't envy you your task, but I wish you well with it, and I'm sure many of the listeners do as well. And thanks for coming in and filling us in on it, Mike. And we wish you well with it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mike and Keith, and good luck with the route. Now, Keith has cycled back to his kitchen, so let's find out what the recipe is today.
Now, here's your chance to try your hand at making a bit of pastry, and you're making it to make a topping for a corned beef and onion pie. And this will serve 6 people, hopefully. And for the filling, this is what we need: 15 grams of butter, 1 tablespoonful of sunflower oil, 1 large onion sliced or chopped, 2 celery sticks trimmed, and take the string off as well and slice those, and 2 medium carrots cut into roughly 1 centimetre cubes, 300 grams of potatoes, and the Morris Pipers are good for this. You want those peeled and cut into roughly 1 centimetre cubes as well. Good squirt of tomato ketchup, about 2 tablespoons, somewhere between 1 and 2 tablespoonsful. A 350 can of corned beef, or you could use corned beef from the butchers if you want to buy it, at 350 grams, and some freshly ground black pepper. Now, to make the pastry, we need 300 grams of plain flour, plus a bit extra for dusting with, a good pinch of sea salt, and 175 grams of cold butter cut into cubes, and a large egg. And this is what we do. Now, for the filling, melt the butter with the oil in a large non-stick frying pan, add the onion, celery, carrots and potatoes, and cook over a low heat for about 15 minutes or until the vegetables are softened and beginning to colour. And you have to stir them regularly, otherwise it won't get to all of them. And the carrots should retain a little bit of bite. They should still be a little bit al dente, as it were. Add the ketchup and stir in the vegetables for a few seconds before adding the corned beef. Now, break the beef into chunky pieces with a wooden spoon and mix it with vegetables and season with a pepper. You shouldn't need salt, as the corned beef's usually salty anyway. And remove from the heat and leave that to cool for about 20 minutes. Now, preheat the oven to 190 degrees centigrade or gas mark 5. And to make the pastry, put the flour, salt and butter in a food processor and blitz on the pulse setting until the mixture resembles breadcrumbs. Now, lightly whisk the egg with a tablespoonful of cold water in a small bowl and pour all but 1 tablespoonful of the egg mixture into the food processor with the motor running, and be careful, we all know what can happen, and blend that until the mixture begins to form a ball. Turn the pastry out onto a well-floured work surface and bring it together into a ball. Take about a third of the pastry, roll it out and use it to line the 23 centimetre pie plate or 20 centimetre round ceramic quiche dish or something similar, or a deep Victoria sandwich tin even. And leave any excess pastry overhanging the edge. Now, brush the pastry edge lightly with the reserved egg. Spoon the filling into the pastry base and spread to all the sides, so you spread it out nice and evenly. Flour the surface once more and roll out the remaining pastry, lifting the rolled pastry over the rolling pin and place gently over the filling. Pressing the edges firmly together, then trim neatly, press a fork around the edge to seal it, brush the top of the pastry with the egg, cut across the centre and place it on a baking tray and bake for about 40 minutes or until the pastry is golden brown and the filling's piping hot. And that's just what you need on a wintry day. Corned beef and onion pie.
Thanks, Keith. So before you dash off to test the recipe or go off on your bikes, it just remains for me to thank all our contributors, including Local Life magazine, our sound editor John Mallet, our presenters Alison and Keith, and not forgetting, of course, our producer John Fletcher. So it's goodbye from me, Tony Wiener. Until next time, bye.